I will be reading from Genesis chapter 32, verses 1 through 6, the King James Version. And Jacob went up on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses, flocks and men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find grace in thy sight." And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to me to meet thee, and 400 men with him."
I will read it in Spanish. Jacob siguió su camino y le salieron al encuentro ángeles de Dios. Y dijo Jacob cuando los vio, "Campamento de Dios es este." Y llamó el nombre de aquel lugar Mahanaim. Y envió Jacob mensajeros delante de sí a Esaú su hermano, a la tierra de Seir, campo de Edom. Y les mandó diciendo, "Así diréis a mi señor Esaú, así dice tu siervo Jacob, con Labán he morado y me he detenido hasta ahora, y tengo vacas, asnos, ovejas y siervos y siervas, y envío a decirlo a mi señor, para hallar gracia en tus ojos." Y los mensajeros volvieron a Jacob, diciendo, "Vinimos a tu hermano Esaú, y él también viene a recibirte, y 400 hombres con él." God, continue blessing your word and be with me as we share it at this time. In March of this year, two brothers and their wife decided to surprise their mom for Mother's Day. So they were crossing from Honduras, and they decided to cross the border at Texas. As a result, they didn't know they were going to be the surprise ones. As soon as they crossed, they were picked up by the Border Patrol. One of the brothers and his wife, they decided to go back home. They signed voluntary deportation and went back home immediately. The other brother and his wife decided to stay and fight. Eventually, the family were able to release them. But they didn't come empty-handed. They thought they were bringing joy, that they were bringing hope. They were trying to make their mom be happy. Unfortunately, that took a little longer. But this is something that Jacob was trying to do too. He was trying to see if his brother will receive him. He was trying to see if his brother was ready. If he has lost all that anger that he probably held for a long time. Interestingly, Jacob did not come empty-handed. He came with his family and crossed that border. Jacob's action was not something different that people did during those times, and you probably know this. Sometimes the king needed to make an offering of peace or asking for a favor to somebody from another kingdom. They will send messengers, and they will bring a lot of gifts. If the gifts were accepted, there was a chance for peace. If were not accepted, there was a sign for trouble. But Jacob wanted to be sure, if my brother had let off all this anger or the maybe feelings of vengeance against me and my family, we will find out. He was crossing from one country to another. Like our immigrants, brothers and sisters, they don't come empty-handed here, and he didn't either. People who visited our churches this past Sunday did not come empty-handed. Our seminary students do not come empty-handed here either. They all come with their own experiences of God and life, but they also bring their talents, their knowledge, and their spirituality. Last week, my inner city students asked me, "Teacher, can we play some music while we're working?" I said, "Okay, play some music." And in my 50-year-old Hispanic male pastor, they're probably gonna play top 40 pop music or top urban rap, some type of those music. Well, I was pleasantly surprised also. They were playing country music. And I'm talking about inner city students. Not only they were playing the music, they were singing. And at that table, there was a football player, a gay student, an Anglo student. Nobody told them to sit them together. Once they start playing music, they start gathering together and listening to the music. They didn't come to class empty-handed. They came ready, not only to learn, but to share themselves with one another. God people will never show up empty-handed. And we don't do it either. I'm not talking only about us as church people. I'm talking about everybody. Nobody show up empty-handed because everybody is a God's child. Everybody is a children of God. And when I say this, I don't mean pastors and leadership. I don't mean the people who show up on Sunday faithfully. I'm talking about God's people, those who wake up daily, they breathe, walk, go to work, and come home. Oh, Pastor, are you saying they are just like us? Yes, they're just like us, and they do not come empty-handed. I would love to see our border patrol agents, just as Esau receiving his brother, instead of throwing people down and putting shackles and handcuffs, hugging them, saying welcome, offering water and something to eat, knowing they're bringing something to make this nation, this world, our churches and ministries, even our seminaries, better. In 2008, I received a very special gift. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, I received my letter that I have been admitted to CTS. And in that letter, it says I needed to report to CTS on January 14, 2009. So I have 2-3 weeks to decide what to do. So me and my wife, we sat down, we talked, and for the second time in our life, we sold everything we had, and we moved. We didn't come empty-handed. We brought 3 kids, our church experience, our tradition and understanding of ministry, and here we encountered others that also did the same. Here we came bearing gifts, and others did the same. The question today is, what are you bringing? And maybe we should not only stop at that, but says, what are you bringing? And the second question, are we accepting what they're bringing? Not as a simple courtesy, but are we receiving it consciously and recognizing the richness that each person brings to the world? We're talking about being willing to say, yes, I want it. I want to celebrate it with you. And I want to make this also a part of me. That will make us say, I am not alone in this world. And I can share what God has deposited in me. And you can share it, what God has deposited in you also. Suddenly, when you got a chance, read the whole chapter, the story changes. Jacob was afraid. He was nervous. He didn't know what's going to happen. But when he decided, I'm going to go by myself and see what happens, when his brother saw him, he stand up, he ran, he hugged him. That day, both of them received different gifts. Again, revise this chapter 32 from beginning to the end. And I broke on purpose, something that you probably learned in seminary, do not break the pericopes because you want to do it. So I broke it on purpose on this time to make you read it later. The value of being a child of God comes precisely from knowing it, feeling it, and start living on it. Understanding that in God's incredible mercy, we have been bestowed with the capacity and the ability to give to others. Not just because we can, but because it's part of our essence as children of God. Efesios 2, 19 al 22. Por eso ante Dios ustedes ya no son extranjeros. Al contrario, ahora forman parte de su pueblo y tienen todos los derechos. Ahora son de la familia de Dios. Todos los miembros de la iglesia son como un edificio, el cual está construido sobre la enseñanza de los apóstoles y los profetas. En ese edificio Jesucristo es la piedra principal. Es Él quien mantiene firme todo el edificio y quien lo hace crecer, para que llegue a formar un templo dedicado al Señor. Por su unión con Jesucristo, ustedes también forman parte de ese edificio, en donde Dios habita por medio de su Espíritu. So then, you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God, built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the cornerstone. In him, the whole structure is joined together and grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are built together spiritually into a dwelling place for God. I would love to see that on a sign somewhere. In every on our border entrances, that will be lovely. A lot of us probably have read the scripture that is on the Statue of Liberty. It said, bring us your poor, bring us, have you read that? How many of you know that that's part of a little larger poem? That's part of a little larger poem. And this poem, this is more of a sonnet. It's a comparison of the Colossus of Rhodes and the Statue of Liberty. But this Statue of Liberty is saying that we are recognizing that people are welcome in this country. And supposedly that's the biggest symbol we have representing that. That was a gift from another country to us. How can we not recognize the value of people given not by any country or statue or idea, given by God to help us realize our value as people, realizing our possibilities to be something more than just people who belong to one specific place. We're people that belong to God, and God's realms is everywhere and is everything. And you can use any metaphysical or ethereal expressions that you want to put there. Anyone that you can use in your own spiritual tradition to make it make more sense. But understand this. If we believe that everyone can bring something, that then there is that spark, that presence of God in every person, why can we as a nation and our own government see it and recognize it? A couple of weeks ago, I was part of a Hispanic celebration, and they brought Mexican-American astronaut, Dr. Jose Hernandez. And he was the keynote speaker that day. And he was describing his experience of being at space. And then he said something really interesting for me. He said, do you know The first thing I realized when I arrived at space is that there's no borderline between any countries. I just wish we can say the same here on earth about it. We come bearing gifts as Jacob in the midst of uncertainty. Sometimes we don't know what is expected of us or what is expecting us on the other side of the river, of the wall, of the line, of the door. We may not know, but there's certainly a moment of hesitation there, feeling lonely and afraid. And those moments, that's where God show up. And God reminds us, even if somebody show up with their own 400 men, and they're expecting you on the other side, there is a space for reconciliation, and our gifts will be well received. I know we are in September, but in the Hispanic tradition, our Christmas celebration is a little longer. Usually ends on January 6th. We celebrate the wise men arrival, El Día de los Reyes, the Three Kings Day. And I'm mentioning this because we have a saying, in particular in the Puerto Rican tradition, that we say, todo el año es Navidad. The whole year is Christmas. What about when we feel like the wise men bearing gifts, as Jacob bearing gifts, as God bearing gifts, and being ourselves doing that, bearing life, bearing fruits, in the name of all names. Go, run, walk, trot, swim, do whatever you can, in any way you can, but please, bear some gifts. Not just as immigrants or as spiritual people, but as people of God. May God continue blessing us. Dios les bendiga.